He is Mark Cuban here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Mark?
Good, Rich. How are you?
It has got to be amazing to watch this kid work, man.
It is fun. He's such a good kid, too. I just love hanging out with him. He's a kid, and he plays like you're playing with a dude playing pickup at the Y, and he's just having a blast, and everybody who plays with him loves to play with him. It's just special to watch.
Now, when you walk me through that draft night trade, Mark, and how that went, how that worked. I mean, were you nervous because it involved another team and other players that had yet to be drafted? I mean,
there was a couple things that had to happen. First, there were the teams ahead of us. And, typical in draft, every team kind of has a good feel of what the other teams are going to do, but you're never 100% certain. So we thought that number one would go DeAndre Ayton to the Suns. We weren't sure what the Kings were going to do. They ended up selecting Marvin Bagley Jr., and so then we got on the phone, and we had been on the phone with the Hawks off and on throughout the entire day, and it was like, okay, we got 5 minutes, it's decision time. And so we talked and went back and forth, and they came back. We wanted certain protections, and we did the negotiating, and they basically said, this is the final offer. You got to say yes or no. And I looked at Donnie Nelson, our GM, and Rick Carlisle, our coach. I'm like, look, if this kid is as good as we think he is, we're not going to argue about protection for the pick. We just got to say yes. We said yes. A couple minutes later, we were making the pick and selected Luka, and the rest is history.
Well, I mean, and then obviously the rest is indeed history. But what made you think that this kid is that special?
I mean, we've been following him since he was 16 years old. I mean, if not younger, with some of our scouts out in Europe, and everywhere he went, he won. I mean, 16, 17, 18 years old. At 17, he was playing against the OKC Thunder and holding his own. And he just has that winner's mentality, but he also has the skill set to go with it. And I don't know that he's at LeBron basketball IQ yet, but he's approaching that. And that plus his physical abilities, plus his willingness to work and get better, his willingness to learn, that really just that entire package just said, okay, we got to go for this.
But would you term him ahead of schedule?
Yeah, no, he's a slacker.
Well, what by that I mean is like you envisioned this.
I had no idea he'd be this good this soon.
Right?
None. I mean, he showed us some things last year, but the work he put in, because he tailed off at the end of the year last year. I mean, he wasn't used to the grind of a 82-game schedule, and so we put it on him to work hard over the summer. That he couldn't be chubbier than the owner, and he had to get in great shape, and he did. He took on every challenge that we gave them. He's becoming more and more disciplined, which is shocking for a 20-year-old. I mean, Dirk was the most disciplined player that I was ever around. But at 20, when I first bought the team, Dirk was eating Snickers bars and chips, before and after games. And so Luka, I think, has picked it up a little bit more quickly than Dirk did, and that's a big part of the equation.
Well, I mean, Dirk lasted a long time for somebody that was eating like such garbage.
He learned very quickly. No more Wiener Schnitzel and and Snickers bars on the road, and so he got like Dirk would not touch alcohol, would not eat sugar, would not eat anything fried for the last 15 years of his career. And Luka's not there yet, but he's taking those types of strides forward.
Well, a couple more on this kid. I mean, again, because he's so special. Mark Cuban here on the Rich Eisen Show. The fact that he did get to actually play with Dirk for a year, the fact that there is a connective tissue, do you think that has anything to do with what we're seeing right now?
Absolutely. I mean, he got to see just how hard Dirk worked, just the discipline that it took. The way Dirk interacted with fans, the way Dirk carried himself, because he's still at 19 when he came in. He's still very impressionable, even though he'd been around men. He'd been playing professionally for years. The NBA is just a different beast for everybody who comes in. And so just being able to see Dirk and his approach and his work ethic and his discipline made a huge difference. And they still talk all the time.
They do. Okay. And then he's still just 20. I mean, we know, we live in a crazy world in the NBA where life comes at you fast. I mean, do you have any plan? Is there any plan in place to keep an eye on him or anything like that?
No, he's mature. I mean, he's goofy, but he's mature. I mean, it's not like we have to keep an eye on him. He's settled down in Dallas. He's got a place. Got the nutritionist that he works with. He's got, all the tools. I mean, we try to take the approach. It's not just your body. It's not just your skills. It's also your mind. It's also your nutrition, and give all of our players every edge that we can give them. And, he's really taken to it. He's lifting weights for the first time in his life. I mean, he's mature and he's street smart. It's not like, book smart where he's gone to college. But you can put him into any situation, and he knows what's going on. He's really a smart kid.
Mark Cuban here on the Rich Eisen Show. Look, I'm glad you're on this show, Mark, because I do this show every day, but I'm also in the middle of an NFL season with NFL Network. Yep. So on occasion, it's tough for me to do back-to-back shows. I got load managed yesterday, so I'm glad that this is the show you're on. When you show up.
I did take a night off and went on tomorrow's show instead for back-to-back.
You know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough. So what gives, Mark? What gives with the whole load management situation?
I mean, these are professionals that make a living with their body. And they're, science has changed over the years. And we now are a lot smarter about the impact of a 48-minute game. We can track fatigue. We can see the impact not just on their bodies, but in their performance. And so when we limit a guy's minutes, we get more out of them. And not only that, but hopefully for the Mavs back to the playoffs, we tend to balance it out so our load management isn't just reduction of minutes. Load management also means towards the end of the season, you're increasing minutes, you're increasing number of games, so that by the time the playoffs kick in, you're ready for, instead of playing 34, 35 minutes a game like Luka may be doing right now, ramping that up to 38 or 39 minutes. So while everybody talks about load management as being a reduction, that's typically towards earlier in the year, but towards later in the year, that load management means increasing the number of minutes and being able to take on a more strenuous load.
So take me behind the scenes here, certainly with your team. Are these dates already predetermined before you even take the floor to start the season, that you did this day, that day? So it's not?
No, they're not.
No.
So it depends on circumstances. Did you have an overtime game? Was it a tough game? So he was playing, 39 minutes instead of 34 minutes. Was somebody injured? So something else changed. So it's not preset where, okay, here's the schedule, we're sticking to it. It's very much contextual.
Well, it's also not just about the number of minutes that somebody's playing on a certain night. I mean, I don't think fans would care about that because they're actually seeing the player that many of them have spent hard-earned American dollars and a lot of planning on to see, certainly if it's just one time that they get to see a certain star coming into their town. So what do you say to fans that hear the term load management when they don't get to see one of the star players in their town?
It beats the heck out of them being hurt and a bunch of fans not being able to see them. You can just see across the league that there was a point in time when players, there were 10, 15 players in the league averaging 42, 43 minutes or more. I think Allen Iverson, had crazy number of minutes that he played. And it impacts their performance, and it leads to injuries. And so, would you rather, even if we just come into an Eastern Conference town and you miss Luka or it might have been Dirk or whoever for a game, we try to look at it from a bigger picture and say, it might have been 6 games or 8 games or longer if you really got injured, and injury levels are higher when you don't pay attention to how much work a guy's putting in.
I think I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I know you like going back and forth and having a conversation on stuff like this.
Sure.
Obviously, players can play all 82.
Sure.
But if the mentality of the membership and also front office and also coaching staff and health and wellness staff all says they're going into a season where this guy's not going to play 82, then why play 82 games?
Oh, I mean, those guys still want to get paid. They do get 52% of the revenue, And remember, a big part, what's the goal? The goal is to win a championship, period, end of story. And if you're telling me that a guy might miss a game on a back-to-back or 5 games or 6 games, very few players play 82 games as it is right now. And so if somebody's playing 74 games because of load management, but come playoff time, they're a lot fresher, their legs are there, they're not as dinged up as typically is the case. Now, I mean, now you've got a better chance. And if you're playing in a series against a team who hasn't taken that into consideration, then you have a huge advantage.
So are you load managing? I mean, can you load manage a 20-year-old?
No.
You don't.
No, I mean, but again, he's playing 34, 35 minutes.
Right.
But we do try to get the right rotations. So right now he plays most of the first quarter depending on how things are going in the game and who we're playing against. That rotation may change depending on the stretch of games we have or, who we're playing against, just the type of game that it'll be. So we just, try to be smart about it. There's definitely not one size fits all.
Okay, last two questions on this subject. Does the player have any say in it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to listen to them, but players want to keep on playing. I mean, they know what their bodies feel like at the end of the year, and they know that when they feel fresher, they play better. And, again, going into the playoffs, you want to be physically at your best. And that's what matters more than anything.
And then the last one is, maybe you don't know the answer. I'd love if you did, and you're a perfect person to ask. Who came up with the term load management? They deserve it.
I have no idea. Probably Shaq.
Is that because he is a larger
load, right?
to manage? I mean, because that person deserves an award of some kind to come up with a term.
Yeah,
like
it's a great term. No, you know what it was? It was some team that put it on there as an excuse to the NBA, but I don't remember which one.
Oh, man. So the larger issue as well that will come up again, draft time it always does, is the concept of when players should be allowed to come out one and done, et cetera, and so on and so forth. What's your current thought on all of this here, Mark? In
a perfect world, it'd be more like the NFL where they play through their junior year, and that's more just because of life skills more than anything else. Being able to adapt to, and I recognize that the hypocritical nature of that, given that Luka would, just be a sophomore or junior, right now. But, at the same time, we've had kids that don't know how to open up a checking account, don't know how to, sign a lease, and you typically have to babysit them. And that's a challenge for them. And I've seen guys fall out of the league because they just didn't have the life skills. Now, that said, I don't expect that to happen, that I'm standing on an island by myself, and I really expect it to go from one and done to none and done, and kids will be coming out of high school. But that said, a big impact on this is going to be what happens with the NCAA and the rules on guys being able to sell their image and being able to do sponsors or however they define it. Because I could easily see a situation where, a guy in his freshman year wins a national title, and is just killing it, but is not a prototypical NBA player and might be, a bottom half of the first round or early second round player, and he might make more money staying in college. And so that could change the whole dynamic of none and done.
How about that? How do you like the Omnibus Coaching Challenge, how that's gone so far?
Yeah, it's worked against us more than it's worked for us, but I still think it's good. I think there's adjustments that need to be made. Even when they get it right, because so often we have to move it to a jump ball, that still disadvantages the team against which the call was wrong. So we had a situation where, the ball went out of bounds, and so since they couldn't ascertain whose possession it should have been, we had a jump ball, and that jump ball went against us, and we lost the game against Portland. But it happens. I'm always in favor of getting it right in any way we can.
And what's the Shark Tank update here on the most successful business you've bought and fostered?
So the Shark Tank update, for those who watch Sunday nights on ABC every Sunday,
there you go.
Is that I sold a company called I sold it to Carvana, and it was called Cycloramic. Mm-hmm. And it was a company that, if you go to Carvana's website and you're able to click on a car and spin it around, open the doors, that's using some computer vision libraries that they created. And so it was a company, I think I invested all in like $500,000 for 20%, and we sold it for like $25 million, but the stock price of Carvana keeps on going up and up and up, so now it's like a $70 million deal. So we're all happy.
And then behind the scenes, which member of Shark Tank needs to be load managed the most? That back-to-back shows.
Golly,
which one?
Mr. Wonderful.
He does, huh?
Kevin needs to be load managed. We need a break from each other every now and then.
Is that right? Because we had Kevin here in studio. Mike Del Tufo, my audio engineer, or audio executive, as he likes to be called.
Yeah.
We had him pitch an idea, and Mr. Wonderful did his usual on Mike and just left him in a pool of dust
took him
on the
out
floor.
behind the barn and shot him.
But it was not a very good idea. To be very honest with you,
exists.
Which is what?
Exists.
And it's an app for you.
I'm not going to do it with Mark because Mark will kill me too. I have better stuff.
Yeah, we load manage that idea.
Yeah, low manage that idea right out of the distance. Huh?
Mark, love the chat. Thanks for the call, brother.
All the time. Really appreciate it, Rich.
Right back at you. That's Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, at MCuban. I follow him on Twitter. You should as well. Same on Instagram.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.